Happy New Year. So I look forward to a face-to-face class on Wednesday, and but I thought that rather than us getting each other sick on Monday, let's do some of this right now. And first of all, you'll have a syllabus attached to this email along with some other materials. Let's go over the syllabus. One of the things you'll notice about the syllabus is we already did all the learning outcomes. When I got here a long time ago, 11 years, they covered in 4 semesters what we've already covered by Theory 3. We've moved along pretty fast. So let me tell you a little bit more about Theory 4. This is where we're going to look at all the rules of music that we've been learning in Theory 1, 2, and 3 being bent and broken. You'll notice that we've talked a lot about tonal harmony, Roman numerals. We did some counterpoint. We've looked at forms. We've looked at music by Bach. We've looked at Mozart. We've looked at Beethoven. We've looked at some Romantic composers like Chopin and Brahms. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the composers that come a little bit later and start coming up with new ways of expressing themselves. You might want to even just take a minute and think, okay, well, who are some of the modern composers that I've heard of or that I've performed? Or have I been to a recital class and heard something that was very modern? So, who are these, who are the ones that first broke the rules and came up with a new language? We can see some of that on the last page of the syllabus. This is sort of a survey of music from the late 1800s and 1900s. We're going to start with music of Wagner. He was the one to sort of push tonality to its very limits. And then we're going to look at music of the French and Impressionists, particularly Debussy and Ravel. In our second unit, we're going to look at music by neoclassical composers. These are composers that, even though they were writing in a more modern style, they were looking back at music of the 1700s for inspiration in terms of form and tonality and some of their ideas. A couple of those composers that are most important are Stravinsky and Bartók. They each kind of looked back at ways of taking older sort of ways of thinking about music, but then coming up with more modern treatments that were reflective of a more modern era. In our third unit, we're going to look at the composers who discarded tonality and had to come up with a whole new system for what types of pitches and harmonies they were going to use. They no longer wanted to think of something in the key of C or the key of E flat. They wanted to find a way, a new method of having music like that. We credit Arnold Schoenberg with being the pioneer of writing music that didn't have a tonal center. And then he also had 2 pupils, Webern and Baird, that also wrote a lot of pretty powerful music, and we'll look at some of their works as well. And then last but not least, when we get into Unit 4, what I want to do is just take a look at a couple other composers. Hindemith probably fits better in with our neoclassicists. Hindemith was definitely a tonal composer looking at older forms, the same in a similar way as Stravinsky and Bartók. And when I say similar, I mean in terms of neoclassical versus some of the atonal composers. And then it would be nice to look at an American composer, so I always like to throw in Charles Ives. He was an experimental composer from the very early 1900s in America that was kind of doing some wild things. And then also I want to look at some musical trends after World War II. There was a lot of more abstract and outside the box thinking about how music could be done when we get to that sort of music. So that's sort of the kind of stuff that we're going to be looking at. So all the rule breakers, one of the things that I found is that students who didn't necessarily like Theory 1, 2, and 3 sometimes feel like Theory 4 is their favorite because it's all about breaking down all the stuff and coming up with new things rather than trying to remember all the stuff that I've been telling you in the last few semesters. You're going to find that otherwise on the syllabus, there's not a whole lot of things that are different than what we had in Theory 1, 2, and 3. But I will let you know that I don't think, I will not be taking attendance the first 2 weeks of class. There are too many people that are getting sick, and it is still up to you to make sure that you understand the materials and you turn in your work. But other than that, this beginning of the semester is kind of a horror show with so many people sick. So I will look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. If you can't make it this week though, because you're in isolation or quarantine, just be sure to FaceTime into class with a friend, and make sure that if you have assignments, you can slip those under my office door if you need to. Going back to when things are due, you'll notice that our first assignment is not until next week. That will be an assignment on new modes and scales that we're going to see in the Impressionist and Neoclassic music. So next week there will be an assignment on modes and scales. You'll notice though that we do have a quiz on Wednesday next week. That quiz will be on Wagner's Prelude to Tristan and Isolde. I will be using all of our class time Wednesday and Friday to go over that material, and I will also, I might not use all of my time Friday, but definitely all of our time Wednesday and Friday. So you'll need to make sure that you get those notes on that music. At which point I would like to go ahead and start talking a little bit about that. So here's the thing is, Wagner is one of the more controversial figures of the 19th century. I'll even put up some dates for him. I think I got this right. If I didn't, I'll fix it. Wagner is actually a contemporary of some of the earlier romantics, like Mendelssohn, Chopin, Schumann. Who else am I missing? There's a few others. I'll think of it in a minute. But he was probably the most pioneering in the way that he thought of how music could work in terms of its exploration with other art forms, and also one of the most pioneering in terms of his thoughts about key and cadence and phrases. When you listen to music by Wagner, you'll often hear a lot of prolonged tension in his music, that he waits a long time before he actually gets to where he's going. Oh, I want to back up just a little bit. So I'm sorry, I skipped something that I wanted to talk about earlier in terms of modern music. I wanted to make a comparison to some visual arts. So I'm going to turn the lights off real quick. There we go. So I found some nice paintings And you'll notice that when we look at these paintings, you get a sense of where the light is shining in, you get the details, you get the colors. You can really tell, what you're looking at. And I like to think of this painting as being a comparison to music that we've studied, right? When we're listening to Mozart or Beethoven, we can hear the keys, we can hear the melody, we can hear where there's a cadence, we can tell what the form is, right? We can hear when it comes back to an earlier idea. There's a lot of clarity in music of classical composers. Let's look at a couple others. So yeah, here's another one. Again, you can see the colors, the detail. You can tell that it's a painter. This is actually, I think this is a self-portrait by Goya. And you see all the details, the ruffles of his shirt. Here's sort of a more nationalistic or romantic painting. But again, you can see you can see the colors, you can see the imagery, you can see the lines delineating one figure from another. Everything's pretty clear. As we get a little bit more modern, some of the colors and lines start to blur. So here we have a painting that's getting us later into the 1800s. And you can notice that we can still tell it's a ship. We can tell that there's a sun over here. But things are starting to get less clear. We don't see all the crisp details that give it the sense of realism that we used to notice. So here we have some haystacks, but they're not the right color. And it's kind of hard to tell where the grass starts and the hay starts and where the sun changes, right? Where it goes from sky to haystacks or whatever. I'm not even sure what that is over there. Let's keep going here. Oh yeah, here's some people dancing, but they're the wrong color. And it's hard to, and their bodies kind of look contorted and don't seem to be the right shapes. This is a Matisse. Oh, and that's a woman crying. So yeah, you can see that the same thing is going to happen with music in the 20th century. It's going to take things that we can tell are sort of clear in terms of melody, form, harmony, and we're going to see them distorted and have much more trouble with them. And this, I don't even know what this is. Maybe it's a tree. No, I have no idea. But again, if this was a musical composition, what do you think it would sound like? Would it be in the key of E flat major? Yeah, probably not. All right, getting back to Wagner. Wagner's biggest output is he wrote 13 operas. And not all of them are referred to as operas. Some of them are called music dramas. But for the sake of simplicity, let's just say that he's an opera composer. So one of the things about Wagner is I would say that in a lot of ways, I think he might be one of the more difficult composers to get interested in. The piece that we're going to be looking at is his Prelude to Tristan and Isolde. Now, there was a movie about Tristan and Isolde, and if you saw it, great. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't bother. I didn't bother to see it. But essentially, it does give you sort of the short version of what the opera is about, with probably a lot of other things that aren't in there. But here's the story. So Isolde is the princess of one group, one nation, and Tristan is the head knight for the other group. So there's two groups at war. I should have started with that. All right, so there's two kingdoms at war. One kingdom, the top knight is Tristan. The other kingdom, the princess, is Isolde. So Kingdom A with Tristan is victorious. They win. They beat Kingdom B. However, Tristan is severely wounded in one of the big battles. and at which time Isolde cares for him. So he develops feelings, right, for the enemy. That's no good. And then to make it worse is King Mark, right, this is Tristan's liege, the guy sending him off to fight, has said, all right, now that I've heard you're healed up from that big fight, I need you to bring Isolde back because she is to be my bride. So of course, Tristan he's not really thrilled with that, because he's got feelings for this woman, but now he's supposed to bring her back for the king to marry. So, and of course that's his duty. So anyway, they decide that they're going to both take the death potion, because neither of them likes this. She doesn't want to marry this king that's the enemy, and he doesn't want to have to he has these feelings for her. He doesn't see a reason to have to live like this. So, except though that things go wrong, and instead of taking the death potion, they take the love potion. So now the two of them are completely madly infatuated, and of course it's all bad love triangle, right? Now he's got to take her back to King Mark, and it's no good, right? So this opera is all about how they're going to try to make it work, and of course it won't, because in the end they die. So there you go, spoiler alert. I just saved you a trip to New York City and sitting through 5.5 hours. The whole opera is 4 hours with 2 really long intermissions. So usually if it starts around 6 o'clock, they'll get you out at 11:30. Yeah, it's a big one. It's a really long. So here's the thing, is I've walked by a lot of music and civ classes where the teacher is playing this for them and be like, hey, this is Wagner. And I think, no, this is one of the most difficult Wagner pieces to get into. If I were to hit play of this piece for my class, and it was a music and civ class, I would essentially be telling them, hey, you all should go to sleep, because this is what will happen. It's going to put you to sleep. Now, you're not a music and civ, you're in music theory 4, and I think that you are ready for this piece, and it won't put you to sleep. So, here's what we're going to do. I've given you a little bit into the piece, and you can find it on page 82 in the anthology. Whoop, whoop. Let's see here. Aha! There it is. Okay. Now, I'm going to send you a link to a movie. Not the Tristan and Isolde movie, another movie. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. So this film is called Melancholia, and it came out in 2011, and it's an apocalyptic drama art film by experimental director Lars von Trier. Now you're probably wondering, why am I sending you this movie? Why are you going to watch it? So here's the thing, is this director, Lars von Trier, he decided to use the prelude to Tristan and Isolde, the piece that's on page 82, right, 83, 84, 85, the piece that we're going to have our next quiz on. He decided to use it as his, essentially the weird opening to his movie. And rather than just listen to it and follow along in the music and be confused, oh, what's going on? It's so slow and quiet, and then now it's really loud, and it's making me anxious, right? That's how you're going to feel when you're watching this. You'll have a movie to go with it, to kind of get your mind to wander. So, what's this movie about? So, the movie is about how this woman, Kirsten Dunst, it's going to be her wedding, except she has terrible depression, right? I think we can all relate to, no wait, I've never been married, terrible depression. Okay, I don't know about the relating part, but, That's not the only thing though. The other thing is they've just discovered, astronomers, that another planet is going to collide with Earth and end like all like a few like life and existence as we know, because the planet will be destroyed. So basically it's like the end of civilization, and she's depressed for her wedding. So it's kind of like a really sad, dark movie. So how does one capture like this sort of power? And what the director wanted to do was sort of use the sort of the rising tensions and the rising prolonged tension of Wagner's music as a way to kind of illustrate these vignettes, these sort of surreal images that are sort of foreshadowing like the end of existence. So what I'd like you to do is I will send you this link. I want you to watch this, I think it's about 8 or 9 minutes, and it's most of the prelude. And what you'll do is you're gonna just let your mind wander, like what's going on in this music? How does the music like relate to the images? Because at the end of the day, I don't really care so much about this movie. I care about you getting more interested or starting to think differently about the music, which otherwise could be really slow and put you to sleep. I don't want you to listen to Wagner's Tristan and Isolde and just fall asleep. I want you to listen to it, and I want you to be thinking, what is this music supposed to mean? And the movie's kind of a way to help you out with that. Now, I'm giving you a short assignment. So the short assignment is to listen to the music, but the assignment is also this. What is Wagner doing musically to sort of push boundaries? Is he pushing boundaries in terms of key tonality? What's going on? What key is the music in? What's going on with the key area? What about phrases, cadences? Are there harmonic goals? Do we hear a clear sense of sort of structures and places to take a breath in the music? What's the form of this piece? Do you hear a form? Is there a sense of structure? Is there a sense of things relating one to another? So this piece, even though your version is on a piano score, it's actually written for a full orchestra. How does the composer use the orchestra? What about some other things like dynamics or rhythm and meter? So keeping in mind that Wagner is a Romantic composer, and he's sort of the Romantic composer that was the one who started pushing boundaries the most, I would like you, for Wednesday, we're going to start Wednesday with a discussion, and I want to hear what your ideas are on how Wagner is pushing boundaries with these things. So with that, I will see you Wednesday, but you need to watch the movie link that I sent you. It's not very long, 8 or 9 minutes. It's just the intro to a movie. You need to, I would say, crank up the volume, listen to it nice and loud, and be patient, because the music takes a long time to unfold. And as you're listening, you know, do you get a sense of what the music is saying? In fact, let's do that last. What's the music communicating? And then I would like to have a discussion of some of these. And this isn't going to be a me telling you thing. This is going to be y'all telling me because you came up with ideas that you wanted to share in class. I think that's it. Sorry we didn't get to hang out on Monday at 9 a.m., but I will see you on Wednesday. And please email me if you think of anything or if you have any questions about this syllabus. All right, thanks.